The station never stops moving, even when it's told to. Lanes form, vests direct. Speakers repeat a calm script that doesn't match the air. People follow signs like it's safety. Bags tighten. Eyes keep checking exits. Officer_EC. Calm, focused male officer. Early 30s. Medium athletic build. Defined jawline. Short textured dark hair. Light stubble. Slightly tired eyes. Natural skin texture with pores. Tactical police uniform with subtle wear marks. Grounded, realistic expression drifts with the flow, not against it. K9_Shadow. Black and tan German Shepherd. Black saddle pattern. Black facial mask. Golden tan fur. Upright alert ears. Amber eyes. Small notch on left ear. Muscular structure. Realistic fur texture. Tactical K9 harness stays steady until he doesn't. A leash shifts. One breath changes. A folded map becomes a signal. A service door sits back in shadow. The reader blinks green. The thing about a subway station is that it never truly holds still, even when it tries, even when the city orders it to, even when the day's schedule insists that for 2 hours between morning rush and lunch spillover, everything is controlled for a public safety drill. Controlled chaos is still chaos. The ceiling speakers barked out announcements in a calm, practiced voice that felt too clean for the air down here. This is a scheduled training exercise. Please remain calm. Follow all posted signage. Transit staff are available for assistance. People did what people always did when told to remain calm. They glanced at the nearest exit. They held their bags tighter. They tried to identify who looked in charge, who looked afraid, who looked like they knew what would happen next. And when a handful of transit staff in bright vests herded foot traffic into neat lanes, the station's usual disorder simply reshaped itself, like water poured into a different glass. Officer Ethan Cole moved through it like he belonged to the architecture, not because he was loud, because he was precise. He didn't have the bulk of a man who relied on brute force. He had the posture of someone who made fewer moves on purpose, someone who didn't spend energy unless it earned something back. Calm face, steady eyes. A disciplined kind of quiet that made other people feel a little steadier without ever understanding why. At his side, K9 Shadow walked with the same economy. German Shepherds could look like wolves to people who didn't know better, sleek, sharp lines, intelligence in the eyes. Shadow looked like something even more unsettling, intent given fur. His paws made a soft, rhythmic tap on the platform tiles. His ears tracked sounds that never registered as sounds to humans. An argument one staircase up, a dropped coin across the concourse, a door that latched a fraction too late. Shadow was working, but Ethan had been with him long enough to know the difference between working and listening for trouble. The drill had been pitched as a community-friendly event. Show people what responders do, practice evacuation routes, remind everyone that safety plans exist. Officially, Ethan and Shadow were here to demonstrate K9 readiness and support crowd management. Unofficially, Ethan had agreed to be here because drills were magnets. Anytime the city put up signs and barriers and uniforms multiplied, the wrong kind of person saw opportunity. The kind who believed a crowd could be used like fog. The kind who knew that staged confusion could hide real crimes. Ethan didn't say that out loud. He simply walked. Captain Maria Hayes' voice came through Ethan's earpiece, filtered by static and professionalism. "Cole, status?" Ethan pressed the mic with 2 fingers, barely moving his jaw as he spoke. "Normal so far?" Shadow's steady. "Copy. We've got transit security running the upper concourse. Reed is on the south stairwell. Keep it smooth." "Always do," Ethan said. Across the platform, Deputy Lucas Reed stood near a pillar in a reflective vest, trying to look like he belonged there. He was competent. Ethan wouldn't have kept him close if he wasn't, but he had that rookie energy that always burned a little hotter than necessary. Even standing still, Lucas looked like he wanted to sprint. He caught Ethan's eye and gave a subtle nod. Then Shadow's pace changed. Not a stop, not a lunge, a shift. His head lowered a fraction. His shoulders tightened. His tail, which had been relaxed in a neutral working carriage, went still. Ethan felt it through the leash like a pulse. Shadow had moved from patrol to lock-on. Ethan didn't tighten his grip. A leash wasn't a steering wheel. Not with Shadow. It was a conversation. Any change Ethan made would be felt, translated, echoed back. He let the line stay loose. Shadow's nostrils flared. He tested the air. Then he angled, not toward the evacuation lane, not toward the uniformed cluster, not toward the trash cans where false alarms loved to happen, toward the moving crowd, toward a single thread in a tapestry of bodies. Ethan's gaze followed the direction of Shadow's ears. At first, he saw nothing. People in business clothes, tourists with paper cups and oversized backpacks. A couple arguing softly, the way couples argued in public when they were trying not to be noticed. Then he saw the teen. Not little kid young, not adult. That middle space where the world expected confidence but rarely gave it. Maybe 16. Loose hoodie, transit map folded wrong in one hand as if the paper had been refolded in a hurry. Hair pulled back under a beanie, even though it wasn't cold enough underground to justify it. Nothing about them screamed danger. But Shadow didn't react to screams. He reacted to truth. The teen moved like someone trying to take up less space than their body required. Not shy, managed. Ethan's stomach tightened just slightly. Not fear, not yet. Recognition. He'd seen that posture in victims before, in people who had learned that attention was a kind of consequence. Shadow slowed. The teen's eyes flicked up, fast, cautious, and caught Shadow's stare. And then it happened. So small. Ethan almost doubted himself. The teen shifted the transit map in their hand, rotated it, folded the edge in, pinched the corner between thumb and forefinger like they were smoothing a crease. Except it wasn't smoothing. It was a signal. Not the standardized distress sign Ethan had seen in trainings and briefings. Not anything officially posted on flyers. Improvised. Coded. A tiny movement designed to look like a nervous habit. But Shadow reacted as if someone had shouted. His ears snapped forward. A low sound vibrated in his chest, more breath than growl, like the warning before lightning. Ethan's brain ran through options the way it always did. Fast, ordered, unsentimental. If he approached too quickly, whoever was watching would move. If he did nothing, the teen might vanish into the stream. If he called it out openly, the teen could be punished later. Ethan took one step, slow, casual, and let his shoulders relax like he was only doing a routine pass. Shadow matched him, still controlled, but now every muscle had that coiled, dangerous readiness that told Ethan something else. The threat wasn't standing in the open. It was positioned. It was waiting. Shadow's nose angled toward a service access point, a door set back behind a maintenance alcove, half obscured by a transit poster. The kind of door commuters never noticed. The kind of door people with credentials could use like a private hallway through the city's ribs. Ethan's throat went dry. A drill created cover. A restricted door created a route. And a teen was asking for help without daring to say the words. Ethan didn't rush the teen. He changed the shape of the world around them. He drifted to the side so his body blocked the teen's line of sight to the maintenance alcove, casually like he was checking signage. Shadow moved with him, a living wall of fur and focus. Ethan softened his voice as if he was speaking to any commuter. "Hey," he said, friendly, low volume. "You all right? Need directions?" The teen's gaze didn't meet his. Their eyes stayed on the ground 2 feet in front of Ethan's boots. Their grip on the transit map tightened until the paper creased. Then that tiny coded motion again. Pinch, fold, release. A message with no sound. Shadow exhaled hard through his nose like he was trying to push Ethan forward. Ethan kept his hands visible. Open palms, non-threatening posture. Shadow's presence did the opposite, a uniformed animal with teeth and discipline. But Shadow wasn't looking at the teen like prey. He was looking at them like a responsibility. Ethan lowered his head slightly. Human empathy translated into body language. "We're doing a drill today. It's loud. It's a lot. If you need a quieter route up to the street, I can help you." The teen's lips parted as if speech wanted to escape. They didn't speak. Their eyes flicked, one sharp glance, past Ethan's shoulder toward the service door, then away again. That glance told Ethan what his instincts had been building toward. Someone had trained the teen not to look. Not directly, not long enough to be caught noticing. Ethan pressed the mic on his collar with a thumb, so lightly it looked like he was adjusting his radio. "Hayes," he murmured. "I've got a possible silent distress. Teen on Platform B, Shadows locked. Suspect may be using service access." There was a pause, not hesitation. Calculation on the other end. Then Captain Maria Hayes. Understood. Keep it quiet. Reed is moving. Transit security will hold public flow. You want medical staged? Not yet, Ethan said. Just eyes and containment. Ethan glanced sideways, barely turning his head. Lucas Reed was already shifting position. Smooth for a rookie, like he'd practiced not looking like he was reacting. He melted into the crowd at the edge of the platform, walking as if he had nowhere urgent to be, except his eyes were scanning every face, every hand, every unnatural stillness. Ethan returned his attention to the teen. "Can you walk with me?" Ethan asked, like it was nothing. "We'll get you to a less crowded spot." The teen hesitated. Shadow stepped forward, one careful pace, then sat. A trained sit, a controlled sit. But his eyes didn't leave the teen's hands, and when the teen saw Shadow sit, something flickered over their face. Relief so quick it almost looked like pain. They nodded once, barely. Ethan turned smoothly, giving the teen space to fall in beside him without feeling grabbed. Shadow stood immediately, leash slack, ready. They started moving. 3 steps in, the teen's shoulders rose, tension returning, because they felt it too, the invisible pressure of being watched. Shadow's ears angled back, then forward. He was listening behind them. Ethan didn't turn, not yet. He guided them toward the center of the platform where transit staff in vests created a lane for drill participants. In the controlled flow, Ethan could move the teen without it looking like an extraction. And yet Shadow's body language stayed wrong for a drill, his tail low, his posture forward, his scent focus fixed on the service alcove like a compass needle. Ethan's mind clicked. The watcher wasn't just watching. They were positioned near that door, waiting for the teen to be steered, herded into a point of isolation. Ethan adjusted course by 2 degrees, like a pilot correcting for wind. He aimed them toward the stairwell where Lucas had posted himself. Lucas caught Ethan's eyes. Ethan gave one tiny head tilt. Hold. Lucas slowed and leaned against a column like he was bored. Ethan's voice stayed calm. "You're doing good," he told the teen, as if they were just nervous about travel. The teen's fingers twitched against the folded map. Pinch, fold, release. Shadow whined softly, barely audible. Ethan heard it anyway. So did the teen. Their gaze finally lifted, just for a second, and met Ethan's. In that moment, Ethan saw something that never belonged in a teenager's face. The discipline of fear, not panic, strategy, fear that had learned rules. Ethan felt his chest tighten, and for the first time today, his calm took effort. The drill's evacuation announcement boomed again overhead, and the platform shifted as a wave of staged evacuees started moving toward the escalators. A tide. Tides were dangerous. If the teen got pulled into it, Ethan could lose them in 30 seconds. Ethan subtly moved closer, not enough to touch, enough to block. Shadow moved on Ethan's other side, creating a narrow corridor of safety. They reached the bottom of the stairwell where Lucas stood. Lucas's smile was bright and casual, rookie-friendly, disarming. "Hey, Officer Cole, everything cool?" Ethan didn't answer directly. He spoke like they were discussing drill logistics. "Reed, can you help me redirect some folks? We've got congestion." Lucas nodded like it was the most normal request in the world. "Sure thing." And as he stepped forward, he placed his body between the teen and the open platform, sealing the gap. The teen's breathing hitched, just slightly, like their body had been waiting for that block. Ethan crouched halfway, not kneeling, just lowering his height to reduce intimidation. "Listen," he said quietly, "I'm not going to ask you to explain everything out loud, but I need to know one thing." The teen's eyes flicked past Ethan again, toward the maintenance alcove. Shadow's head snapped that way so hard the leash line trembled. Ethan's voice stayed even. "Is someone here with you who shouldn't be?" The teen swallowed. Their hand moved again, same coded motion. Pinch, fold, release. Then their lips barely moved, no sound, just a breath. Shadow's ears pricked as if he heard words that weren't there. Ethan felt a cold certainty settle into his bones. This wasn't a kid skipping school, this wasn't petty trouble. This was someone trying to get free while a predator stood close enough to punish them for it. Ethan pressed his mic again, speaking low. "Hayes, Shadow confirms route at service access. I'm moving teen to stairwell hold." Hayes' reply came instantly. "Copy. Transit security is sealing public flow at the top. You have eyes?" "Not yet," Ethan said, but I'm about to." He rose, slowly. He turned his head just enough to scan without announcing it. The maintenance alcove looked ordinary. A poster, a trash bin, a yellow caution sign, and that service door, slightly set back, with a keycard reader most people never saw. Then Ethan saw the man, not looming, not rushing, standing like he belonged. Reflective contractor vest, lanyard with a badge turned just enough to show it existed, not enough to read. Hands relaxed at his sides, face neutral in that practiced way people wore when they expected no one to challenge them. But his eyes weren't neutral. His eyes were locked on the teen. And when Ethan's gaze met his, the man's expression didn't change. Only his stillness sharpened, like a blade being pulled from a sheath without making noise. Shadow's growl began, low, contained. Ethan tightened his grip a fraction, not to restrain Shadow, to reassure him. "I see it too." The contractor's hand drifted, casual, toward the badge lanyard. Not to show it, to touch it. A signal of confidence, authority, access. And behind him the service door's keycard reader blinked green, like it had just been used. Ethan's stomach dropped. The door wasn't just a possibility, it was active. The man had already opened the route. Ethan didn't move suddenly. He did what calm, disciplined men did when danger tried to rush them into mistakes. He built a trap with patience. He looked at Lucas, just a glance, and Lucas's expression shifted from friendly to focused. Lucas stepped slightly to the side, positioning himself so his body blocked the stairwell's open line. No easy escape upward. Ethan turned his shoulders so he stood between the teen and the contractor, making himself the first obstacle. He spoke, louder now, in a voice that still sounded like drill control. "Sir," Ethan called, friendly tone, "we're redirecting foot traffic due to the exercise. Can I see your credential, real quick?" The contractor smiled, not with warmth, with calculation. He lifted the badge, showing the plastic glint. Ethan didn't step closer. He didn't need to. Shadow's body had gone rigid. His eyes were on the man's hands, then the service door, then back to the teen. A loop, a warning. The contractor's gaze flicked to Shadow, and for the first time a crack appeared in his composure. Not fear, annoyance, like the dog was an unexpected variable. Then the contractor's eyes slid to the teen again, and Ethan saw the message in that look. "You will pay for this later." The teen flinched, tiny but real. Shadow's growl deepened. Ethan's voice hardened under the calm. "Read," he said, still sounding like drill talk. "Hold this position." Lucas replied, equally casual, "Yep, got it." Ethan pressed his mic. "Hayes, suspect at service door. Contractor cover. Door is active." Hayes, "Understood. Do not engage loud unless necessary. We're closing the net." Ethan's heartbeat was steady, not because he wasn't afraid, because fear didn't get to drive. Shadow took one step forward. The contractor's hand shifted toward his vest pocket. Ethan's muscles coiled, the air went tight, and the drill's announcement overhead chose that moment to declare, "Evacuation route change. Please proceed to alternate exits." The crowd surged, a living wall of bodies, cover for a predator. Ethan knew if the contractor moved now, he could vanish into the service corridor with one keycard swipe, and the teen, silent, trapped, would disappear into the city like they'd never existed. Ethan made his decision, not impulsively, instinctively. "Shadow," Ethan murmured, not a command to attack, a command to focus. "Watch." Shadow's ears snapped forward. His gaze pinned the contractor like a nail through paper. Ethan stepped, one decisive pace, toward the service alcove, positioning himself so he could see the door, the reader, and the man's hands. "Sir," Ethan said again, voice calm as steel, "I need you to step away from that access point." The contractor's smile faded, and in the crowded roar of the drill, Ethan heard the quietest, most dangerous sound of the day, the service door latch clicking. From the inside, someone or something moving behind it. The latch click came again, soft, almost polite, like the station itself was clearing its throat. Ethan's eyes snapped to the seam of the service door. No one emerged. No shadow slid under it. No second set of footsteps arrived to confirm Ethan's fear that there was another person behind the metal. Instead, the door settled in its frame, the spring hinge finishing its slow pull the way it always did after a recent entry. A mundane sound. a normal sound. And in moments like this, normal was the most dangerous camouflage of all. K9 Shadow didn't care about mundane. His stare stayed locked on the contractor's hands. The man's fingers rested against the edge of his vest pocket, still waiting. His badge swung slightly from the lanyard, catching the overhead lights like a wink. Ethan kept his voice level. Step away from the access point. The contractor's jaw tightened. For the first time, his composure didn't look professional. It looked possessive, like the door belonged to him, like everything behind it belonged to him. Ethan didn't raise his weapon, not yet. The platform was crowded with staged evacuees and real commuters, and one wrong escalation could stampede civilians into a worse situation. His body became a barrier instead, square shoulders, solid stance, feet planted where he could pivot either direction. Lucas Reed shifted on Ethan's left, tightening his perimeter without looking like he was tightening anything at all. His hands stayed visible, but the readiness was there, coiled in his posture, braced in his knees. Captain Maria Hayes' voice was still in Ethan's ear, low and controlled. "Cole, talk to me." Ethan didn't move his lips much. "He's positioned at the service door. Shadow is hard-focused. Crowd surge is getting heavier." "Transit security is redirecting above," Hayes said. "I'm moving to your side." Ethan's eyes stayed on the contractor. "Copy?" The teen beside the stairwell pillar looked smaller than they had a minute ago. Not physically, emotionally. The crowd noise swallowed them. The drill announcements flooded the air with artificial urgency, and the teen's gaze kept wanting to drop to the ground like looking up was an invitation for punishment. Ethan made a choice in the space of a breath. He didn't ask the teen to speak. He didn't demand an explanation. He gave them what victims needed, more than questions, an exit. Ethan turned his head slightly toward Lucas. "Reed, walk them up the stairs, slow, like it's part of drill flow." Lucas nodded once. "Got it." The teen's shoulders jerked, panic flaring for a split second. Their hand tightened on the folded map. Shadow's head snapped back toward them, checking. His ears angled, reading the teen's fear like subtitles. Ethan softened his voice, aimed at the teen, but carried like something casual. "You're not in trouble. Just keep moving with him." The teen's lips parted. Still no words. But their hand made that tiny coded motion again. Pinch, fold, release. Closer to their chest now, like hiding it. Shadow exhaled through his nose, a sharp huff that meant now. Lucas stepped in smoothly, offering his arm like he was guiding a lost commuter. "Hey, you're coming this way. No big deal." The teen hesitated just long enough to tell Ethan everything he needed to know. They didn't trust uniforms. They trusted Shadow. Ethan shifted his weight so Shadow was visible to them, not blocked by Ethan's body. Shadow stayed steady, calm face, calm eyes, every ounce of him saying, "I see you." The teen's throat bobbed as they swallowed. Then they moved, one step with Lucas toward the stairwell. The contractor's gaze flicked toward the teen. It wasn't subtle anymore. His mask slipped, and something predatory showed through, intent sharpening into decision. Ethan stepped half a pace forward, cutting the line between the contractor and the teen. "Sir," Ethan said, friendly tone gone now, "I asked you to step away." The contractor's eyes moved to Ethan. Cold, measuring. Then his hand dipped into the vest pocket. Shadow's growl rolled out low, vibrating in the leash. Ethan's fingers tightened, not yanking, just anchoring. "Shadow." The contractor pulled out. A key card, just plastic, just access. But in his grip, it looked like a weapon, because of what it could open. He flashed it like proof. "I'm authorized." Ethan didn't blink. Not today. The contractor's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You don't get to tell me." And then the crowd surged again. A wave of bodies pressed between Ethan and the contractor's peripheral space. Transit staff shouted directions. Someone dropped a bag and cursed. The drill's siren tone spiked, then faded. In that fraction of confusion, the contractor moved. Not away. Toward the door. Ethan reacted instantly. "Stop!" he commanded, voice finally cutting through the station noise. Shadow lunged at the same moment, not at the man's throat, not out of aggression, but in a trained intercept line. Block the path, control the subject, force distance. The contractor slammed his card to the reader. Green blink. The door popped. Ethan's blood went cold. If he got through that door, he could vanish into the service corridor, Restricted tunnels, blind corners, no cameras civilians could access. Lucas's voice snapped from the stairwell. "Ethan, he's moving!" The teen's head whipped around toward the door, panic flashing like a flare. Ethan didn't have time to think. His instincts did it for him. He shoved his body forward and pinned the door with his shoulder before it could fully swing. The contractor collided with Ethan's resistance. For a split second, the two of them were pressed in a narrow space. Metal door, Ethan's weight, the contractor's impatience, Shadow's growl. The contractor's breath smelled like coffee and something sour beneath it. His eyes were too calm, too prepared. "You're making this worse," the contractor hissed. Ethan held the door with brute force now, voice calm as ice. "You're not going in there." The contractor's gaze flicked past Ethan, down the platform, to the stairwell where Lucas had the teen. Ethan saw the calculation happen. The contractor didn't need the door if he could reach the teen in the crowd. Ethan's stomach dropped. The man yanked the door harder, trying to force it open enough to slip his shoulder through. Ethan shoved back, the hinge whining. Shadow barked once, sharp, explosive, drawing eyes. Panic rippled. People started to scatter away from the sound. Ethan hated it. Crowds were fuel, but he couldn't stop Shadow now. Shadow wasn't panicking. He was warning everyone who needed to hear. "Move away. Danger." Ethan pressed his radio. "Hayes, he's forcing the service door. Crowd is shifting." Hayes' voice cut in immediately. "Hold, I'm 2 minutes out. Reed?" Lucas answered fast. "I've got the teen moving up, but they're resisting." "Keep them moving," Ethan said, voice steady even as his shoulder burned from holding the door. "Do not let them get separated." "Lucas, copy." Ethan shoved the door closed again. The latch clicked, loud this time. Final. The contractor froze for half a second. Then his eyes narrowed. And Ethan recognized something worse than anger. Patience. The contractor wasn't impulsive. He wasn't cornered. He was adapting. He stepped back as if conceding. Hands lifted. "Okay. You want me away? Fine." Shadow's growl didn't stop. Ethan didn't relax. He watched the contractor's feet, his shoulders, the way his weight shifted slightly to his left, like a runner preparing to cut. And then the contractor moved. A sudden pivot. Not toward the door, toward the platform, toward the stairwell where Lucas and the teen were climbing. Ethan exploded into motion. "Reed!" he shouted. Lucas spun, seeing the contractor breaking into a sprint up the stairs. The teen's head snapped back, their body locked. Freeze response. Terror. Shadow surged forward, leash snapping taut. Ethan released the door and ran with him, boots slamming tile, weaving around commuters who shouted and stumbled away. The contractor bounded up the stairs 2 at a time. Lucas stepped into his path. The contractor shoved him hard, slamming Lucas into the rail. Lucas grunted but stayed upright, grabbing for the man's sleeve. The contractor tore free and kept climbing. Ethan's heart hammered. This was the moment everything could shatter. Teen pulled away, predator disappearing into the concourse. "Shadow, go!" Ethan snapped. Shadow didn't hesitate. He shot up the stairs like a missile, claws scraping metal, body low and fast. He wasn't barking now. He was pure motion. The contractor glanced over his shoulder at the sound, eyes wide now, mask finally cracking. Shadow closed the distance with terrifying speed. The contractor reached the top landing and swerved toward a corridor marked Authorized Personnel Only, a restricted hallway that curved out of sight. Of course he'd planned that route. Ethan hit the landing a second later. Lucas was already there, breath sharp, eyes furious. "He shoved past me. Sorry, not your fault," Ethan snapped, then lowered his voice. "Stay with me. Don't get separated." Lucas nodded once. He was a rookie, but he wasn't reckless. He fell into step. Hayes' voice cut in through Ethan's earpiece again, closer now. "Cole, I'm above you. I see movement." Ethan pressed the mic. "Suspect is moving into restricted corridor. Teen is—" Ethan's gaze darted. The teen had stopped on the stairs, frozen, one hand gripping the rail like it was the only thing keeping them from falling. Shadow reached the top and paused. Split-second decision. Pursue or protect? His ears flicked back toward the teen. Ethan felt a fierce pride burn through his fear. Shadow chose correctly. He glanced at Ethan, then at the teen. Ethan made the call. "Shadow, watch them." Shadow wheeled back down one step, positioning himself between the teen and the corridor. He didn't bark. He stood like a wall. Lucas crouched beside the teen, voice gentler now. Hey, look at me. You're okay. Breathe. The teen's eyes were glassy. Their lips moved. Still no sound. Then their hand made that tiny coded motion again, but this time it was different. Faster, more frantic. Pinch, fold, release, pinch, fold, release. Ethan recognized it. Not just help, now. Ethan's gaze snapped toward the restricted corridor. The contractor was gone around the curve, but the green light over the personnel door blinked again. Access used. Route confirmed. Ethan's brain clicked into cold clarity. This man wasn't just trying to grab the teen in a crowd, he was trying to get them into a place where no one would hear them. A tunnel. A back corridor. A door that could be shut. Ethan's voice dropped into the mic. Hayes, lock down restricted corridors. He's headed into service access above Platform B. Hayes, copy. Transit security is sealing doors from concourse side. I'm heading to you. Ethan turned to Lucas. Keep the teen here. Don't let them out of your sight. Lucas's eyes widened. You're going after him? Ethan's jaw tightened. He's not disappearing into this system. Shadow's ears snapped forward at Ethan's tone. He wanted to go. Ethan looked at him. Shadow, come. Shadow moved instantly, leaving the teen under Lucas's protection. It was hard for him. Ethan saw it in the dog's hesitation, the way his eyes flicked once more to the teen like a promise. Then Shadow was at Ethan's side, ready to hunt. Ethan didn't sprint down the corridor like an action hero. He moved with controlled speed, weapon low, eyes scanning. The restricted hallway was narrower than the public concourse. The lights were dimmer. The air smelled different. Metal, dust, maintenance chemicals, the stale breath of infrastructure. Shadow's nose dropped. His tail went still. He had the scent. Ethan followed. A door at the end of the hallway stood half open, another maintenance entry. Shadow nudged it with his shoulder. Ethan pressed in behind him. And just like that, the noise of the drill vanished. The subway's public chaos fell away. Inside the service corridor, it was quiet enough that Ethan could hear his own breathing. Quiet enough that danger could whisper. The service corridor wasn't built for people. It was built for function. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, wiring bundled in thick cables like veins, yellow hazard tape along the baseboards, doors with warning signs that meant nothing to civilians and everything to someone who knew what they were doing. Shadow moved ahead, paws silent on the concrete, nose sweeping side to side. Ethan kept his weapon down but ready, flashlight clipped to his vest, throwing a narrow cone of light. His mind ran. No new characters, no surprises. This is just the man and the routes he planned. And that was enough. They reached a junction where the corridor split, left toward electrical rooms, right toward a series of security doors with keycard readers. Shadow didn't hesitate. He went right. Ethan followed and saw what Shadow had already told him. The keycard readers along the right corridor were lit, not blinking red, not locked, green, recently used. The contractor had been through here minutes ago, maybe seconds. Ethan's stomach turned. He didn't just have access, he had a plan. Shadow stopped at the next door. He didn't bark. He listened. Ethan held still, breathing controlled, letting Shadow's senses lead. Shadow's ears angled forward, his body tightened. Then he moved, nosing the door seam, pushing gently. The door opened a crack. Ethan slipped through. The space beyond was a wider service passage running parallel to the tracks. Far below, Ethan could hear the distant rumble of a train, muffled like thunder behind a wall. The contractor's scent was stronger here, and so was something else, cold air moving in a steady stream, a ventilation pull, a route. Shadow angled toward it. They turned another corner, and Ethan saw the heavy security door ahead, thicker than the others, industrial grade, built to compartmentalize emergencies. A door designed to lock, a door designed to trap. Shadow slowed. Ethan felt it in his gut. This was where the contractor wanted to end up. This door was the tool. Ethan pressed his mic. Static crackled, but Hayes's voice came through faintly. Cole, status. Service corridor, tracking. He's using keycard access, multiple doors, green lit. He planned this. Hayes' voice sharpened. Understood. Reed has the teen secure? Ethan exhaled. Yes. For now. Hayes, do not get separated from Shadow. If he tries to compartmentalize you, back out. Ethan's eyes stayed on the heavy door. Copy. Shadow's growl began, soft, controlled. Ethan raised his flashlight. The heavy door was slightly ajar, and through the crack Ethan caught a glimpse of movement. The contractor. He stood on the other side, half-turned, one hand braced against the door, the other holding the keycard like a talisman. He wasn't running now. He was waiting. Ethan's voice cut through the corridor, calm and lethal. "Step away from the door. Hands where I can see them." The contractor's face twisted. "You're making this hard." Ethan didn't negotiate. "Hands." The contractor's eyes flicked past Ethan's shoulder toward Shadow, and Ethan saw it again. Annoyance at the dog. A man who'd built a plan around doors and roots and intimidation, now confronted with an animal that didn't care about his authority. The contractor's hand tightened on the door. Shadow lunged one step, growl deepening. Ethan's body coiled. "Shadow, hold!" Shadow held, trembling with controlled force. The contractor's gaze flashed. "You don't understand what you're stopping." Ethan's voice didn't change. "I understand enough." The contractor smiled, thin. "You think that kid's safe because you've got her on stairs? You think your buddy in the vest can keep her from moving?" Ethan's blood chilled. Not because it revealed a new character or a new twist. Because it revealed the Predator's mindset. He believed control was inevitable. He believed he could reach her later, if not now. Ethan stepped forward half a pace. "This is your only warning." The contractor's smile vanished. He moved, not toward Ethan, toward the door mechanism. His hand slammed the keycard to the reader on the inside panel. Green flashed, and the heavy door began to swing. Not open, closed. A thick, slow, powerful swing, like a vault ceiling. Ethan's brain screamed. He's trying to compartmentalize, trying to shut Ethan out, trying to create a barrier that would buy him time to backtrack through another route, to loop around, to reach the teen on the public side before the lockdown completed. Ethan surged forward, boots pounding concrete. "Stop!" he shouted. The contractor shoved the door harder. The heavy door moved faster now, swallowing the gap. Shadow reacted before Ethan could command. He launched, full body, no hesitation. His shoulder slammed into the door edge. The impact echoed down the corridor like a gunshot. The door shuddered, slowed, but kept moving. Shadow planted his paws, muscles straining, using his entire weight to resist the closing swing. Ethan lunged to the side, trying to reach the door seam. The contractor's face was contorted with effort as he shoved. His eyes weren't on Ethan anymore. They were on Shadow, on the dog that was preventing his plan from sealing. The contractor snarled, "Move, mutt!" He brought his boot up and kicked hard toward Shadow's ribs. Ethan's throat tightened. "Don't!" Shadow took the hit, a deep, painful thud. His body flinched, but he didn't release the door. He dug in harder. Ethan felt rage surge up like heat, but he forced it down. Rage made mistakes. Mistakes got people hurt. Ethan thrust his arm into the narrowing gap, shoulder twisting, trying to wedge himself in. The door caught his forearm, metal grinding into fabric. Pain flashed. Ethan didn't care. He shoved back. The contractor's breath came in harsh bursts. He kicked again, this time higher. Shadow's teeth flashed, not biting flesh, not going lethal, but snapping in warning. And the contractor did the stupid thing. Men like him always did when their plan was threatened. He escalated. He reached into his vest and yanked out a metal tool, something heavy, something meant for maintenance, repurposed into a weapon. He raised it toward Shadow's head. Ethan's voice went cold. "Drop it!" The contractor swung. Shadow twisted at the last second, still bracing the door with his shoulder, and the tool clipped Shadow's side with a sharp metallic crack. Shadow yelped, just once. It wasn't fear. It was pain. And it tore something loose inside Ethan's chest. Ethan surged forward with controlled violence, grabbed the contractor's wrist, slammed it against the doorframe, forcing the tool to clatter to the floor. The contractor fought back, elbowing, twisting, trying to break free. Ethan pinned him. But the heavy door was still moving, slow, relentless. Shadow was still holding it back with his body, and Ethan realized the brutal truth. If that door closed fully with Shadow in the seam, it could crush him. Not just injure, crush. Ethan's brain snapped into precision. He needed the door stopped. He needed the contractor controlled. He needed Shadow out of the kill zone, all in 3 seconds. Ethan drove the contractor backward with a shoulder check, forcing him away from the door panel. The contractor stumbled, slammed into the concrete wall. Ethan kicked the tool away, out of reach. "Shadow!" Ethan barked, command sharp as a blade. "Back!" Shadow didn't move. His eyes were wild with determination. He was holding the door for Ethan, holding the path open, not understanding that holding too long could kill him. Ethan's voice dropped into something deeper, something Shadow recognized beyond commands. "Shadow, with me." Shadow's ears flicked. His body trembled. The door shuddered again, closing pressure increasing. The contractor lunged back toward the panel, desperate. Ethan intercepted, grabbing the man's vest, wrenching him down. They hit the floor hard. The contractor thrashed, reaching for something, anything. Ethan pinned him with a knee, twisting his arm behind his back, and still, out of the corner of his eye, Ethan saw Shadow bracing that door, muscles shaking, paws sliding slightly on concrete. The heavy door crept closer to Shadow's shoulder. Too close. Ethan's voice ripped out again. "Shadow, now!" Shadow finally obeyed. He surged backward in one powerful motion, but not fast enough. The door clipped him as it swung, catching his shoulder and raking down his side with a brutal scrape. Shadow's body slammed into the wall behind him. His breath burst out in a pained sound that made Ethan's vision go white for a split second. Then Shadow hit the ground, still conscious, still trying to rise, but limping, one foreleg refusing to take weight. Ethan's heart stopped, and then restarted in a hard, furious beat. He snapped cuffs from his belt and locked them onto the contractor's wrists with a metallic click that felt like justice. "You're done," Ethan hissed. The contractor spit blood and laughed, a thin, ugly sound. "You think this ends anything?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't give the man words. He gave him silence and steel. Ethan pressed his mic. "Hayes, suspect secured in service corridor. Shadow injured, door contact plus blunt strike." Hayes' voice came instantly, sharp with controlled worry. "Copy. I'm inbound with medical. Reed is holding the teen. Stay put." Ethan's gaze snapped to Shadow. Shadow was trying to push himself up, pride and drive fighting pain. Ethan dropped to his knees beside him, hand on his flank, voice low and steady. "Easy," Ethan murmured. "You did it. You did your job." Shadow's ears flicked. His eyes, still blazing, turned toward Ethan. And then, even through pain, Shadow looked past Ethan down the corridor, back toward the direction of the platform, toward where the teen was, as if asking, "Are they safe?" Ethan swallowed hard. "They're safe," he promised, "because you held the line." Shadow exhaled, long, shaky, not relaxed, but reassured. Ethan kept his hand on Shadow's fur, grounding him, while his other hand kept pressure on the contractor's shoulder, keeping him pinned. The corridor smelled like metal and dust and adrenaline, and in the distance the faint rumble of the station returned, drill noise bleeding back into reality. Captain Maria Hayes' footsteps thundered closer. Lucas Reed's voice crackled over radio, tight with urgency. "Ethan, teen is shaking, but they're here. They keep asking about Shadow." Ethan's throat tightened. "Tell them Shadow's alive. Tell them he's a hero." Lucas, "Copy." Ethan looked down at Shadow, and for the first time since the day started, his calm cracked just enough to reveal what lived under it. Fear, love, relief. Shadow blinked slowly, like he understood every word that hadn't been said. Hayes appeared at the far end of the corridor, Captain's posture rigid, face controlled, eyes immediately scanning the scene. She took in the cuffed contractor, the heavy door now fully shut, and Shadow on the ground, and the smallest flicker of emotion crossed her face before she masked it. "Cole," she said, voice steady. "You good?" Ethan nodded once. "Shadow took the hit." Hayes crouched, hand hovering near Shadow's shoulder, without touching, respect for the bond. "Medical is 2 steps behind me. We've got him." Ethan's jaw clenched. He stopped the door. He stopped the whole plan. Hayes' eyes hardened as she looked at the contractor. "And he'll pay for it." Ethan didn't look at the contractor anymore. He looked at Shadow, because Shadow was still trying to lift his head, still trying to be ready, still trying to make sure the vulnerable were safe. Ethan leaned in close, forehead almost touching Shadow's. "Stay with me," Ethan whispered. "Just stay." Shadow's breathing was rough but steady. And then, in the far end of the service corridor, the sound of approaching paramedics echoed. Boots, equipment, urgency. Ethan didn't move away from Shadow, not even an inch. The paramedics arrived like a tide of purpose, 2 of them in Navy jackets, kneeling without ceremony, their movements efficient and practiced. A medical bag hit the concrete with a soft thump. Gloves snapped on. A flashlight beam swept across Shadow's eyes. "Good boy," one of them murmured, reflexive, not sentimental, while the other palpated Shadow's shoulder and ran careful fingers along the scraped flank where the heavy door had caught him. Shadow tried to rise again. It was instinct, duty, pride. Ethan pressed a steady palm against his chest, firm but gentle. "Stay," he said quietly. Shadow's muscles trembled, then eased, just enough to obey. Captain Maria Hayes stood over them, radio in hand, voice clipped and controlled. "Suspect is in custody. Service corridor secured. I want transit access logs pulled and every door on this route locked down." Her gaze flicked to the cuffed contractor, now sitting against the wall, wrists chained, face tight with the kind of rage that only comes when a plan collapses. "You're going to regret this," the contractor spat. Hayes didn't even look at him. "He can talk to a lawyer." Ethan stayed on his knees beside Shadow. The world narrowed to breath and fur and the dull metallic smell of the service corridor. The pain on Shadow's side was visible in the slight shudder of his breathing, but his eyes were still sharp, still scanning, still trying to turn his head toward the corridor exit as if he could hear trouble through concrete. Ethan leaned in, voice low. "They're safe." Shadow's ears flicked. He trusted Ethan. The paramedic checked Shadow's vitals and nodded to the other. "He's responsive. Pain, likely bruising and abrasion. Possible strain in the foreleg. We'll transport for evaluation." Ethan's throat tightened. Transport meant separation. It meant letting Shadow leave his side. Shadow's eyes met Ethan's, and held. The bond between them wasn't mystical. It was built. Hours of training, nights of calls, quiet mornings where Shadow's head rested on Ethan's boot while Ethan filled out paperwork. But right now it felt like language. Ethan pressed his forehead briefly to Shadow's, a gesture so small it could have been mistaken for checking him. "Good job," he whispered. "Best partner I've ever had." Shadow exhaled, a faint thump of tail against the concrete. Weak, but there. Captain Hayes's radio crackled again. Lucas Reed's voice came through, breathy with adrenaline and relief. "Captain, Tina's secure. They keep asking if the dog is okay." Hayes' eyes softened for a fraction of a second, then she keyed the mic. "Tell them Shadow is alive. Tell them he did his job." Lucas's reply came quick. "Copy." Ethan closed his eyes for half a second, not a prayer, not a pause. Just a moment to force the surge of emotion back into a place where it couldn't interfere. Then he opened them again and stood carefully, like if he moved too fast the station might break. Hayes turned to him. "Cole, bring the teen in, or you want to go to them." Ethan looked down at Shadow. The paramedics were already fitting a soft brace, applying a wrap. Shadow stayed still because Ethan was still in his line of sight. Ethan's voice was quiet. "I'll go to them. Shadow needs to see me walk away, not get dragged away." Hayes nodded, understanding instantly. "I'll stay here with the suspect. Lena's on her way to you for the interview. Keep it gentle." Ethan's eyes flicked up. "Lena's coming down here?" "She's already on concourse," Hayes said. "She wants to make sure the teen gets handled right." Ethan exhaled slowly. Good. Dr. Lena Moore wasn't just forensics in the usual sense. She was the kind of analyst who could map behavior like it was a crime scene. More importantly, she didn't treat victims like puzzle pieces. Ethan crouched one last time beside Shadow. "Stay," he said. "I'll be back." Shadow's eyes tracked him, steady, loyal, pained. Ethan stood and forced himself to take 3 steps away. Shadow didn't try to rise again. He watched Ethan go, like he believed Ethan's promise. Ethan left the service corridor and emerged back into the restricted hallway, where the echo of the drill returned. But something had changed. The drill had been noise before, announcements, herding, staged urgency. Now the station felt like it had taken a breath after holding it too long. Transit security had cleared the immediate area. A few officers held the boundary. People were being redirected with calm voices, not panicked shouts. Ethan reached the stairwell landing. Lucas Reed stood there, one hand on the teen's shoulder, not gripping, just grounding. The teen looked like they'd folded in on themselves, hoodie pulled tight, hands clenched around the now crumpled transit map, eyes darting toward every passing uniform like each one might be the predator in disguise. But when Ethan appeared, the teen's gaze snapped to him, and then, as if their body moved on its own, their eyes flicked past him, searching for Shadow. Ethan's chest tightened. He stepped in slowly, lowering himself to their level the way he always did with someone who'd been living in fear. "Hey," Ethan said, voice calm. "He's alive." The teen's shoulders shook once. A breath caught in their throat. Lucas spoke softly, almost whispering. "They won't talk, Ethan, but they keep doing the hand thing." Ethan nodded. "I know." He held up his own hand, not copying the teen's motion exactly, but mirroring the idea, a small, controlled gesture meant to communicate without words. "I saw you," Ethan said gently. "You did the right thing." The teen's eyes flickered, and for a moment all the discipline cracked. Their gaze filled with something raw, relief and terror tangled together. "Can you tell me what that signal means?" Ethan asked. "Not the whole story, just what you needed us to know." The teen's lips trembled. No sound. Then they swallowed hard and whispered, so quietly Ethan almost didn't catch it. "He hears." Ethan blinked. "Who hears?" The teen's eyes darted to Lucas, then to the officers holding the boundary, then back to Ethan. They shook their head, terrified of saying too much. Ethan kept his voice steady. "Okay, then you don't have to tell me names. Tell me what you were trying to warn us about." The teen's hand rose, pinch, fold, release. Ethan watched it like it was evidence, like it mattered as much as fingerprints. "You were telling Shadow," Ethan said softly, "that someone was controlling you." The teen flinched, like the word controlling touched a bruise. Ethan didn't push. He shifted slightly, giving them space. Captain Hayes's voice came through, faintly from farther down the hall, directing officers, keeping the perimeter tight. Her presence was a safety net. Then a familiar voice approached, calm and thoughtful. "Ethan." Dr. Lena Moore stepped into view. She didn't wear a lab coat down here. She wore practical clothes and a badge that looked more like permission than authority. Her hair was pulled back, her face composed in a way that suggested her mind was always assembling patterns. But her eyes were gentle. She crouched beside Ethan, without crowding the teen. "Hi," she said to the teen. "You did something very smart down there." The teen stared at her, suspicious. Lena didn't flinch. "I'm not here to interrogate you," she said. "I'm here to help make sure no one misunderstands what you did." Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. This was why Hayes kept Lena close. She could cut through fear without slicing the person who held it. Lena glanced at Ethan. "Lucas said they're repeating a coded hand motion?" Ethan nodded. "Pinch, fold, release, not the standard sign. It's theirs." Lena's gaze shifted back to the teen, voice soft. "Did you make that up, or did someone teach it to you?" The teen's fingers tightened on the map. A long silence. Then, barely audible, "Group chat." Ethan's eyebrows rose. Lena nodded as if that answer made perfect sense. "Okay, that tracks. Kids share survival tools faster than adults share common sense." Lucas gave a quiet, humorless exhale, the tiniest laugh that wasn't really laughter. Ethan kept his eyes on the teen. "Is the person who followed you someone with access here, someone who can go through those doors?" The teen's breathing hitched. They nodded once. Ethan's voice stayed low. "You were afraid he'd pull you into the back corridors." The teen nodded again, faster now, fear rising. Lena's tone remained steady. "And you used that signal because speaking would get you punished." The teen's eyes flashed. They nodded hard, as if that was the truest thing anyone had said. Ethan felt heat burn behind his eyes and forced it down. He wasn't allowed to break. Not yet. "Hey," Ethan said gently, "you're not alone anymore. That's done." The teens stared at him, like they wanted to believe it, but couldn't afford to. Ethan made the one move that mattered most. He told them the truth. "Shadow saw you," Ethan said, "and he chose you." The teens' lips parted. They whispered, voice cracking. "He got hurt." Ethan nodded. "He did." The teens' eyes filled. "Because of me." Ethan's voice hardened, not at them, at the idea. "No, because of him, because of what he is." The teens shook their head, tears spilling now. Silent tears, disciplined tears, like they'd been trained to cry without making noise. Lena watched Ethan for a moment, then nodded, approving his approach. She turned back to the teen. "Shadow is trained to protect," she told them. "But what he did wasn't just training. He recognized you needed help. That's rare. That's instinct and heart together." The teen wiped their face with their sleeve, still trying to hide their crying. Lucas, trying to lighten without breaking the mood, said quietly, "He's kind of a show-off hero, honestly." The teen's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Almost. Ethan took that moment and guided them into the last part of the truth. "Listen," Ethan said, "we're going to get you somewhere quiet. We're going to make sure you're protected. And I want you to remember something." The teen's eyes stayed on him. "You found a way to speak," Ethan said, "even when you couldn't use your voice." The teen's hand lifted again, but this time the motion was slower, less frantic. Pinch, fold, release. Lena watched it. "That's your I need help sign," she said. "Right?" The teen nodded. "And this," Ethan said, holding up his own hand, not copying exactly, but acknowledging the concept, "was the moment you refused to disappear." The teen's breathing steadied a little. Ethan stood, offering a hand, not to force, just to offer. The teen stared at it, hesitated, then took it. Lucas moved with them, still keeping a soft perimeter. As they walked down the hallway toward the concourse, the drill announcements overhead faded into the background. Because the drill was over for Ethan, for Shadow, for this teen. This had never been training. This had been real. And somewhere behind those walls in the service corridor, Shadow was being lifted onto a stretcher. Ethan felt the pull in his chest like a tether. He didn't look back. Not yet. He just squeezed the teen's hand once, brief, firm, grounding. "You're safe," he said quietly. The teen swallowed. "Because..." He listened. Ethan nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Yeah?" Then he added the line that mattered most, the one that anchored everything. "And so did we." The concourse above the platform felt like a different world. Up here, daylight filtered through high windows and turned the polished floor into a pale mirror. The drill's crowd control lanes were being dismantled. Transit staff rolled up stanchions and folded signs that had declared "training exercise," like the city could simply put the fear back in a box and store it. But people's faces told the truth. A few commuters lingered at a distance, whispering, phones half lifted as if debating whether to record. A transit security supervisor spoke in tight, clipped sentences to two officers. A couple of teenagers stared too long at Ethan and then looked away quickly, like they sensed the edge on the air. Ethan guided the teen toward a quieter corner near an office door marked "Staff Only," where Captain Maria Hayes had arranged a temporary hold. Lucas Reed stayed slightly behind them, positioning himself like a casual shadow, present without crowding. His eyes kept sweeping the concourse with that rookie intensity, but his posture was controlled now. He'd felt how fast things could turn. Dr. Lena Moore walked on Ethan's other side, calm as a metronome. The teen's grip on Ethan's hand tightened every time someone in a reflective vest passed too close. Ethan didn't comment on it. He simply adjusted his stance so his body blocked the teen's view of the crowd. Subtle, instinctive protection. Hayes met them near the office door. She looked composed, but Ethan could read her. The tightness around the eyes, the way her jaw set, the protective anger she kept behind rank and protocol. "Teen safe?" Hayes asked. Ethan nodded, shaken but present. Hayes' gaze flicked to the teen, and she softened her voice. "You did a brave thing today." The teen didn't respond, but their eyes didn't drop this time. A small victory. Hayes turned to Lena. "Can you get what we need without pushing too hard?" Lena nodded once. "We'll keep it minimal, enough to protect them." Hayes looked back at Ethan. "Suspect is being transferred to transport now. Service access logs are being pulled. Everything on that corridor route is locked down." Ethan exhaled, relief laced with anger. "Good!" Hayes' voice lowered. He ran a clean cover, contractor badge, access routes, patience. This wasn't a random creep. Ethan's jaw tightened. He was building a cage. Hayes nodded, and Shadow broke it. The teen's head lifted at the name. Their eyes widened slightly, as if hearing Shadow's name confirmed he was real, still part of the world. Ethan crouched in front of them, voice gentle. Shadow's being checked by medics right now. He's hurt, but he's alive. The teen swallowed hard. Can I see him? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Not because he didn't want to, because he had to do it right. He glanced to Hayes. Hayes gave a small nod. We'll allow it, Hayes said, once Lena finishes the basics and we move them through proper safety. Lena added softly, and only if it helps you feel safer. Not because you owe anyone anything. The teen's lips trembled. I owe him. Ethan's tone sharpened, not harsh, protective. No, you don't owe him pain. You owe him one thing. The teen looked at him. Ethan held their gaze. You owe him your life. You keep it. A long silence. Then the teen nodded once, tears gathering. Lena led them gently into the small office. Nothing fancy, just a desk, 2 chairs, a transit map pinned to the wall, a quiet box carved out of the city. Lucas leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the hallway. Hayes stayed outside, managing the perimeter and radio traffic. Ethan remained inside, not as an interrogator, as a constant. Lena sat across from the teen, posture open. I'm going to ask 3 questions, she said. You can answer with words or yes/no. You can stop any time. The teen stared at the desk. Ethan stayed silent. Lena began. 1. Did you know that man before today? The teen shook their head quickly. No. Lena nodded. 2. Did he speak to you? The teen hesitated, then nodded once. Ethan felt his hands curl into fists in his pockets. Lena kept her voice steady. 3. Did he threaten you if you spoke? The teen's shoulders rose, a tiny nod. Ethan's chest tightened. Lena paused. You used the signal because speaking would be dangerous. Where did you learn your signal? The teen's fingers worried the edge of the crumpled map. Then, barely audible, they said again. Group chat. Lena's eyes softened. Kids sharing safety tools. The teen's gaze flicked up, and for the first time they spoke more than a whisper. It's like this thing, they said haltingly. If you're being watched, you do it like you're just folding paper. If someone knows, they'll understand. Ethan watched their hands as they demonstrated. Pinch, fold, release. A motion that could pass as nothing to anyone else. But Shadow had seen it. Shadow had understood it. Lena nodded slowly, treating it as valid and real. That's smart. It's a signal made to survive a watcher. The teen's throat worked as they swallowed. He kept looking at my hands like he knew I was trying. Ethan's voice came out low. He was tracking control. That's what men like him do. He wanted you quiet. The teen flinched at Ethan's intensity. Ethan immediately softened, reining himself in. I'm sorry, he said gently. You don't have to carry that now. Lena offered the teen a bottle of water from the office mini-fridge. The teen took it with shaking hands, sipped, then held it like a shield. Lena asked one more question, careful. Did he try to lead you anywhere? Toward a door? Toward staff corridors? The teen nodded quickly. He kept standing near places I didn't know, like he was waiting for me to go the wrong way. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And you knew, the teen's eyes glistened. I saw him use a card, and then he looked at me like I was supposed to obey. Ethan's jaw tightened again. Lena leaned forward, voice calm. You didn't obey. You sent a message instead. The teen's lower lip trembled. But then Shadow got hurt. Ethan leaned forward, palms on his knees, meeting the teen's eyes. Shadow got hurt because he did what he was born and trained to do. The teen shook their head, tears spilling. I didn't want... Ethan interrupted gently, not allowing guilt to root. Listen to me. You didn't cause the harm. The man did. Shadow chose to protect you because he could. The teen's breathing shuddered. Lena watched Ethan for a moment, then nodded, approving his approach. She turned back to the teen. We have enough to justify keeping you protected and holding him. That's the point of these questions, not to make you relive it. The teen's shoulders dropped slightly, relief in the release. Outside the office, Hayes' radio crackled, and her voice cut in from the hallway. Transport is moving suspect out now. Ethan's body went rigid instinctively, like he wanted to watch the suspect leave, to confirm the threat was contained. Hayes appeared in the doorway, eyes on Ethan. You want eyes on him? Ethan shook his head. Not as much as I want eyes on Shadow. Hayes' gaze softened. Then go. Lena's got them. Ethan stood slowly. The teen's head snapped up, fear flickering, abandonment reflex. Ethan crouched again quickly, voice steady. "I'm not leaving you. I'm going to check on Shadow, and I'm coming back. Lucas is right outside. Captain Hayes is right here. You are not alone." The teen swallowed and nodded. Ethan stepped into the hallway. Lucas straightened, reading Ethan's face. "How's the kid?" Ethan's voice was tight. "Alive. Fighting guilt." Lucas grimaced. "Same as all of them." Ethan started walking. His pace wasn't rushed, but it had weight. Hayes fell into step beside him for a moment. "Cole." Ethan glanced at her. Hayes' voice lowered so only he could hear. "You did good today. Shadow did good. Don't let your head turn it into something else." Ethan exhaled. "I'm trying." Hayes nodded once. "Go see your partner." Ethan turned down the corridor toward the medical staging area, and with each step, the tether in his chest tightened, pulling him back toward the one constant in all of this. A dog who'd heard a signal the world missed. A dog who'd held a door back with his body because Ethan needed time. A dog who never asked for thanks, only for the chance to protect. Ethan reached the medical corner and saw the stretcher. Shadow lay on it, wrapped and braced, eyes half-lidded but alert. One paramedic adjusted the bandage. Another checked the leg. Shadow's ears flicked at Ethan's footsteps. His eyes opened wider. And in that moment, Ethan felt the full weight of what almost happened hit him like a delayed crash. Ethan moved to Shadow's side and placed a hand gently on the dog's neck. Shadow exhaled, a soft sound like relief. Ethan leaned in, voice barely audible. "You scared me!" Shadow's tail thumped once, weak but unmistakable. The paramedic glanced up. "He'll be okay, officer. Bruised, scraped, strained, but tough." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, he's tough." Shadow's gaze held Ethan's, and Ethan understood what Shadow was asking without words. "Is the kid safe?" Ethan nodded, voice low. "Safe." Shadow's eyelids fluttered. Ethan pressed his forehead briefly to Shadow's head, feeling the warmth under fur, feeling the living proof of loyalty. "Good boy," Ethan whispered. "Best there is." Behind them, the city kept moving. The drill signs came down. The stanchions disappeared. Commuters returned to pretending the world was normal. But for Ethan, and for the teen, and for Shadow, nothing would ever feel quite the same. Not because danger existed. They already knew that. Because today, someone had refused to vanish, and someone else had listened.